Hello and welcome to our Intune introduction. This is a Hazy Tech production. I am Michael Riley, the CTO here. Joined with me is Dylan Lang, Director of Service Delivery. Say hello, Dylan.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey guys. So we are glad that you are here with us so we can discuss Intune. Intune is the next generation of I like to view it as a group policy for all devices, not just your traditional machines, your workstations. So this is going to cover all your mobile devices, your tablets, and it's very powerful. So it's serverless, it's cloud-based. So it's going to give your company the flexibility it needs to transition to a modern workforce. So with that being said, let's look at the agenda that we have going on today. We're going to talk about why Intune. We're going to discuss use cases. Dylan's going to show us an overview of the Intune portal, some different policies that you can quickly deploy. Give us a quick introduction to it. After that, we're going to do 5 Intune settings that you should deploy right now. Finally, after that, we're going to discuss licensing, and then we're going to close on that. Okay, so to get started, what we're going to do is I'm going to pass it over to Dylan. If you would, jump into the portal, give us an overview of Intune, show us some of the features, let's discuss use cases and where companies might leverage Intune and where you can find value for your business.
Absolutely, Michael. So what we're looking at here is basically the portal for Intune. To get here, you want to go to either devicemanagement.microsoft.com or endpoint.microsoft.com. And what you have here is basically a full fleshed out system that's built in the cloud, so it's never going to go down. And it's kind of Microsoft's answer to modernizing GPOs and just your infrastructure in general. You basically make it so you don't have to ever touch the computers that you set up, and you know that your infrastructure is good to go. So the most important thing about Intune is that it basically makes it so that you can scale your company and your infrastructure can scale with you. So something we want to check out actually with that is something called Autopilot. Now, Windows Autopilot is something that basically you link to your vendor where you buy, your computers and your laptops and all your fancy devices from. And once you link Autopilot to their system, they basically say, okay, well, we'll set this up according to your profile, which I'm just going to navigate through here real quick. We're going to go to enrollment and we're going to go to devices. And right here, you would start seeing the vendor orders syncing to here. You can see purchase order. What that does is you would set up a profile and it automatically implements that profile the minute you get that device. So the person signs in, the end user will sign in, and it basically just sets up everything for your company the first minute they get their device. So you don't have to worry about anything. You're not, setting up GPOs, signing in, sys prepping, images, all that nonsense, it's gone.
Wow, so that really eliminates deployment time, correct?
I mean, yeah, technically there is no deployment time at that point. You're basically just buying devices whenever a new person gets hired and you create the user account. It's all linked to Azure AD, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. So because of that, those autopilot profiles, basically now we can look at a much simpler deployment time, much simpler management, and all of that good stuff. So basically what we have in that regard is also configuration profiles. This is where, Intune says, okay, let's give you BitLocker. Let's give you, OneDrive. Let's auto log you into everything. Let's give you SharePoint, instead of those pesky network drives and all that VPN stuff. Let's switch to SharePoint because SharePoint is the way of the future. We don't have file servers anymore. We have the cloud. So we centralize all this stuff to make it easier. And this is exactly what that profile is looking at in order to know how to set up this computer for your environment.
I'm sorry, did you just say without connecting to VPN?
Yeah, no VPN needed. It's all in the cloud. So basically, when you log into Azure AD, the profiles all link together and say, okay, well, you get this according to your group. And now we're just going to automatically install it on your computer thanks to Intune company portal.
So would this replace traditional build outs? Like if I had a small company and I had if say I started a company, I had 10 people, and I wanted to put a server with a file share and authentication and policy. Is this one of the tools that's going to help replace that?
This is actually the Swiss Army knife of tools for that. Basically, what we have here is the perfect answer to a small business. We don't have to worry about expensive hardware anymore. We just set up an Intune account for them. We set up their licensing. We set up their accounts, and then just do a couple profiles here and there. And let me tell you, it cuts down infrastructure deployment time substantially. I would say almost by, it would be a tenth of the work. So it takes about a day to set up most of this stuff. And then once you're done, you're, running. So that way you can have more time to focus on your actual business, the important stuff and getting your product out there.
It almost sounds too good to be true, to be honest with you.
Well, I think that's what Microsoft was trying to do here. They definitely have one of the best platforms for mobile device management.
So real quickly, you mentioned replacing the server on premise. So how does that work with directory and security and authentication? How do my users know, that they're assigned to this device? And how is Intune going to help secure it?
So that's actually a very good question. What you can see here actually is we have BitLocker. It's a profile that's already created. Really what that's doing is it's centralizing BitLocker and pushing encryption out to every single computer. Now, to answer your question, I know you're more worried about identity and basically how people, how the company decides, well, you get that profile, everybody, and the company only gets that profile. So BitLocker here is assigned to a specific group. And just to show you, this is an example of, our sandbox environment at Hazy Tech. So basically what we have here is the included groups is all users. Now, all users means everyone in Azure Active Directory. What happens though when somebody basically says, okay, well, I'm going to get on a personal computer and I'm going to encrypt my stuff so that way after I hit that compliance, I can access all company, assets and resources. Well, that becomes a danger, right? Because then what happens if that device gets stolen? It's a personal device. We do have some options to wipe and lock these computers, but to begin with, we don't even want our end users to say, well, I want to put this here. We want to decide where users put their data. That's the important part. So we can look at compliance policies that basically keep your device in compliance. Now, this is whether your serial number is one of the numbers provided by Autopilot, whether you have BitLocker on there and you have a certain password on there and such. So that's where you would go. You would create a compliance policy. On top of that, if you wanted to allow more access and say you wanted to you wanted to have users jump into the cloud and access their data from anywhere and not have to worry about the restraints, you can consider multi-factor authentication, which I think everybody's switching to nowadays. And in order to get to that, we have something called conditional access. So we go into the devices, and basically down at the bottom, you can see conditional access here under policies. Once you click on this, you can create new policies that are extremely easy to use. And when I say multi-factor used to be very difficult, Intune made this so easy. Basically what we have here is you would select a user group. In this case, we would say all guest users and external users, all users, directory roles, whatever you want to pick. Right after that, you would go into the actual apps you'd want to pick. So for instance, you could do all cloud apps, which is basically all of Office's apps that are in the cloud, along with any custom apps. So if you had anything registered in the Dynamics world or CDS or whatever you used, you could actually access it here, even completely custom apps. As long as it's registered under Azure, you're good to go. So you would just select what you need. Office 365, here's a good example. So this would be OneDrive, this would be Word, all that important stuff, Outlook, everything. And at this point, you just want to say grant, and it would require multi-factor authentication. And that's it. basically you can just click create and you're good to go. Now you can select on or report only. Report only in this case will turn this on, and basically whenever there is something that triggers this event. So for instance, when you're trying to log in to OneDrive for the first time, right? It would trigger this event, and it would only do a report to say, okay, this is when multi-factor would happen. So you can actually test these out before you actually roll them out to your company. So it makes it safe and easy. You don't have to worry about anything.
So Dylan, if I'm a business owner and I have a requirement to maintain HIPAA or PCI compliance, can you tell me if this conditional access is going to impact that directly?
Absolutely. So with those compliance policies, as I mentioned, conditional access can also grant MFA to custom applications. So here's a good example. Say, you've made a custom app where you're collecting credit card information or, private information from patients and stuff like that for HIPAA. Basically, you can just have the conditional access requirement to say, okay, well, whenever they're accessing this app, they need to have MFA, which circumvents, you creating an MFA system, which is great because it makes it happen in about 5 seconds as opposed to a full custom system.
Wow. So I mean, that sounds like it's going to be really useful for anyone who has compliance requirements. Now, you did mention uh, custom applications. So can you go into a little bit in depth on like, are we talking like a web application, or are we talking about something that's pushed to my laptop itself? Is there any sort of automation features that Intune offers?
So to answer your first question, basically, yes, that I was talking about custom applications. So like a web app where, people would access and, that compliance policy would take place. However, to answer your second question, we do actually have a full apps section that basically is just for application deployment, and we'll switch over to that. So let me go over to the app section over here, and basically you have your different options of Windows, iOS, macOS, and Android, but we'll click into Windows for now. So you can see here we have a couple of things that we support, like Cylance and Datto, our RMM tool, and the classic Microsoft suite. So this is a great way to show you how advanced Microsoft has gotten. When we click on add, right, I'm going to create another Microsoft 365 solution. We'll do it real quick. So you used to basically have to go through and make an XML deciding what languages you wanted, what suite you wanted, what app, the actual software that was included in that suite. Now you basically just click next and you have a nice little form that you can fill out. And this saves you so much time. You don't have to worry about looking up, Googling documents and stuff like that and step-by-step guides. You basically can decide what updates you get. You can decide what apps you want to actually include in the suite. People are transitioning to Teams, so you can get rid of Skype and go to Teams if you'd like. You can decide if it's 64 or 32-bit. You can do shared user activations. You can already accept the terms, just making it easier for everyone. And here's the language selection. You have plenty of languages to include.
Wow.
Yeah, so it makes it extremely easy. And once you click next on this, sorry, let me just select something real quick. So once you click next on this, you basically just, pick the group that you want to assign it to. So we would click add all users. And then every time somebody signs into a computer with their information, and as long as it's been approved through conditional access and compliance policies, it will push the software to that device. So it basically just sets up everything for you.
Wow, that does seem easy. I can tell you from someone who has worked with group policy extensively in the past, this seems much simpler and more straightforward. I do have another quick question though. Did I see mobile apps on the first page?
You did. So basically, we do have mobile applications as well. We can push to Android, iOS, macOS, and Windows. So those are the supported systems. Now, what's great about this is you can link up your iOS environment or your Android environment and provide custom apps or, apps that you find in the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. And basically what you're going to do is you just say, okay, these are pre-approved. let's roll these out to all devices. Now, we don't really have an environment set up here, but if we do an iOS store app, you click, search the App Store, and here is where you type in, the app that you're looking for. You look up Teams, you look up any of the Microsoft suite you can actually find in the App Store nowadays. You basically just put it on there, and then it's going to look for it. Now, we don't have a token linked up right now, so we would have to show you this in another example. In one of our videos in the future, we will emphasize app deployment for multiple platforms. So stay tuned for that. But that'll come out in a couple of weeks, most likely.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. Is there anything else pressing that you feel like we should look at before we dig into the top 5 settings that you should deploy right now if you have Intune?
You know what? We'll actually save those for the future videos because, we'll expand on those, and I want to go into detail with everybody.
Awesome. So going back to our PowerPoint, number 5 is BitLocker. And we touched on that briefly earlier, but just to recap, BitLocker is what's going to provide disk encryption on your mobile devices. So if someone decides to steal your laptop, or if your car gets broken into, laptop gets stolen, somebody loses their password, gets fired from your company, and wants to try to access the data that's on the laptop that they still have, plugging an encrypted hard drive into another computer means they will not be able to access data on that unless they have the encryption key, which is mathematically impossible. Number 4, compliance management. And we touched on that earlier. We touched on conditional access. We touched on your HIPAA, your PCI, how there's different settings and policies that you can develop in Intune to push down to your environment that will help conform your machines to meet the requirements that compliance requires. Number 3, configuration management and computer deployment. We talked about that earlier. Dylan, didn't you say that was the autopilot? Isn't that your favorite feature?
Yes, that's just so happens to be my favorite feature because I used to work in support, and let me tell you, autopilot basically eliminates that need for setting up brand new computers. You just have it come directly from the vendor, and it's all good to go.
Let me ask you, Dylan, what if, say I'm repurposing a laptop, is it just as quick?
So that's a great part about autopilot as well. Basically, what you can do is you just do an autopilot reset and switch the user that it belongs to. And once you're done with that, you just ship the device out to the user, or you walk across the office and hand it to them, and they just sign in, and it's now theirs.
Beautiful. And number 2, we have application deployment. Once again, that is pushing out applications that Dylan went over, your traditional desktop applications, any custom configurations you need to push out. No longer have to do the old XMLs. You can do it with mobile applications, iOS. Really, Intune has it all covered. And our number 1 is 2-factor authentication. I think it's left to be said, you talk to anybody in IT security, they say that the number 1 thing that's going to help secure your environment is 2-factor. And come to think of it, if you wanted to do it as seamless as possible, you could require 2-factor authentication on your laptop and push out the Microsoft Authenticator app via application deployment to your phone to help really make the whole process seamless. Because I don't know about you, Dylan, but I don't like codes, I don't like text messages, and I don't like phone calls. I just love the push notification.
Yeah, I 100% agree. You just click approve and it's done.
Finally, let's look at licensing. Intune's included in what's known as the Enterprise Mobility and Security Suite. They have 2 different offerings, the E3 or the E5. There's some differences. The E3 is going to fit in most businesses. If you are concerned or you're interested in pursuing, let's have a conversation. Reach out to us. We'll talk about the differences between the 2 licenses. We'll find out what your business does, and we'll make sure you aren't over licensed. that you've purchased something that's going to fit what you guys currently do. Now, even better than this, if you're currently one of those people who have a server on-prem and just want to go off cloud, they also have another license. It's called Microsoft 365 Business. MSRP is $20 a license. Don't pay that. Don't pay the $880. Don't pay the $1480. Get with us. We're a CSP provider. We can help get you in the right license at the best price possible. This is taken directly off Microsoft's site. So if you buy it directly from them, you're going to pay MSRP. If you work with a partner like us, you're not going to pay MSRP. We're going to also make sure that you aren't, like I said, over provisioned. Find the right fit for your company. Everybody's needs are different. And also, if you guys are looking for managed services in any way, shape, or form, all of this is included. We use this as a staple of our managed services platform, and it helps us conform environments to the requirements the business needs. So with that being said, let's wrap it up here. I think we're at a good stopping point. Dylan, you have any final thoughts?
Not many. Really just, feel free to reach out to us and we'd be happy to help at any time. We're open pretty much 24/7. So, we have our phone number here. You can contact us at the sales@hazytech.com for our email. Or you could just hit us up at our website, hazytech.com. And, we have contact forms on there. It's really however you want to reach out to us.
Awesome. Well said. Once again, any questions, any licensing concerns, or you just want to have a conversation about something else that you have going on with your business, we'd be more than happy to chat with you. We are here to help. We want to be of service. Thank you so much for the time, and we will see you next time.